Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome in. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Come on in. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Thank you for joining. Good morning, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. If you don't know me, if this is your first time, my name is Ayesha Chidole, and I'm an immigration lawyer. I represent clients all over the United States with the immigration matter. At the firm, we handle family-based immigration, marriage-based cases, humanitarian-based cases like VAWA, trafficking, victims of serious crime, U visas, SIJS. We handle removal cases. Pray for us. We have a bond hearing for a detained client tomorrow. So fingers crossed that, our attorney Stacy's able to get him out. Anyway, how's everyone doing? Good morning. Blue Trin said, "Nice to see you after a while." Good morning. Where have you been? I've been on live. I'm here every week. Question: with the 10-year marriage-based green card, does work authorization need to be renewed? No. Once you have a green card, your work authorization is no longer valid because you already have a green card. Your green card is your work authorization. So once you have a green card, the work permit doesn't matter anymore. The travel permit doesn't matter anymore. The green card is your ability to work, is your ability to travel, is your ability to be a legal permanent resident in the United States. Okay. Twister says, "My lawyer, 100. Oh, thanks. Hi." Chef Pascal says, "Always lock in." Yes. Good morning, Afe from Dexter. Sharika Gardner on YouTube says, "World best immigration lawyer. I love you." Thank you so much. Nash Lev from Texas, good morning from Facebook. Thank you for tuning in. And shout out to the person that watches my live that I bumped into at Sephora this weekend with my daughter, who told me that she follows me and watches my live. Shout out to you. I had an interesting weekend. My daughter, I know some of you have been following me for a long time. So my kids when they were like babies. My oldest daughter turned 15 and got her learner's permit. So yesterday was her first day of driving. So my husband and I taught her or started to teach her how to drive. And, I thought I was going to be more nervous than I was, but I realized that if I became anxious, that I will feed that energy to her. So like when I watched the video, I was very calm, and so she was very calm and, she kept her, her hands straight on the road. But I still think I am probably going to put her in a driving school before I let her go out in Atlanta traffic, because that's crazy. And we'll just do kind of like the very, very quiet residential areas, like, very, very early in the morning when everybody else is sleeping on the weekend. But, that's just, was something interesting I did this weekend, especially because I think, when I started this firm 10 years ago this year, funny enough, my daughter was 5 years old. So for those of you who have been watching my lives or following me for a while, you might remember when they used to do the countdown with me in November for Thanksgiving, but she's grown now. Okay, so let's see. My question is already that I passed the N400 in August of 2025. Should I do something else more other than wait? I'm from one of the countries that have the halt. 120 days have passed already. Key fit, unfortunately, you're subject to the hold. So because you're subject to the hold, there's nothing you can do as far as swearing in. They're not going to swear you in until they lift the hold. The directives that they gave us in, I might have it open. Let me see if I have it open. Yeah, so the directives that they gave us on March 31st, basically, they're saying, let Let me just see if I can get the summary here. Just give me a second, guys. So it says that they have established an internal process for lifting holds on individual cases or group cases requiring comprehensive review by multiple offices. And then for people, so it just says certain petitions filed by U.S. citizens, adoptions, certain SIJS applications, certain employment authorization, and all asylum applications from non-high-risk countries. We will continue to review all application types and lift holds for both individual cases as appropriate. So it's very vague. I think my service is bad. I keep getting a notification for poor connection, so hopefully you guys can hear me or see me. But so it's not very, they've not given like any set, but as they said, they will continue to lift, but until I see, other than just processing, because, with clients that we have from any of the 39 countries, we see certain types of processing. We see them schedule them for an interview. We see them doing biometrics. We see them, issuing them prima facie. We see them issuing receipt notices. But we are seeing that once they get to the decision, then they stop. So until we see that the approval is now free flowing, I can't say 100% that they've lifted the hold. They're claiming that they are going to be lifting it as they go. So it's very vague. So I really can't give any more than that I've already seen. So again, as I see, I will let you know. Someone is asking, do you work on H-4 visas? No, I do not. Can you assist me with the 601 waiver? Yes, we can assist you with the 601 waiver. Call our office to schedule a consult. It is 407-995-6567. It's also on the ticker right there. Let me just put it in Instagram for those of you on Instagram. On Instagram. What's this? 995-6567. And then if you're on YouTube, or Facebook, you can find us in the profile. You can also find it also in on Instagram. Can I travel to Nigeria for a month with an approved EAD through VAWA? I have no criminal record, nor am I in removal proceedings. Again, I can't tell you personally because I don't know your immigration history. But typically, if someone is filing, of course, there's always a risk every time you make any international trip. But these are the things that I look for before I say, take the risk if you want to take the risk. Do you have any kind of arrest records? Are you in removal proceedings? We check that ourselves. And then finally, what stage of the case is a person? Is a person, has a person had an interview? Has a person had an interview? Has a person received requests for additional evidence? Has a person received a notice of intent to deny? Depending on if they've received any of those things or where any of those things or what stage they are, that's where we'll make our assessment of travel or not. If USCIS asks for an RFE, how long does it take for your VAWA to finish after 4 years? Unfortunately, it's not a timeline that I'm able to answer because there is no published timeline. That's up to an officer that is reviewing your case. So it's up to the officer that's reviewing your case. Once you have a request for evidence, once you submit your request for evidence, that's up to the officer of what and how they put that priority on your desk. From a timeline perspective, we don't realistically count a timeline from when we submitted the RFE because there's no published timeline, established timeline for an RFE. Instead, we look at the case as a whole. How long has this case been pending, and who can we reach out to get this case to, move forward? So that's what we'll look at, okay? Carl says, what kind of questions should be expected at the interview of abuse, waiver, and extreme cruelty? Unfortunately, that's not something I can go over live during. If you're a client of mine, usually we'll prep you for that, but it's just too long of an interview prep. My interview preps take almost 2 hours, so I'm not going to go over that in a live session. But fully expect to talk about your abuse, fully expect to talk about your marriage and the genuineness of your marriage. Those are going to be the critical things. And then if you have any immigration history, be fully prepared to talk about that, like, prior ones or whatever. All right. Okay. I got my EAD CO9 in 2024, valid till 2029 before VAWA was filed. Do you think I'll still get a VAWA-based EAD, and when would I likely get that? I filed for VAWA in August of 2024. The answer is going to depend on if you filed for another I-765, because a CO9 indicates a family petition. So if you filed a family petition and then you moved over to a VAWA petition, there are only one of two things that would have happened. Either your other case no longer exists, or you requested an abeyance on that case. So if you requested an abeyance on that case is merged with your VAWA case, and so that work permit should work under the VAWA. If it's not, then that work permit technically is not valid, regardless of what the date says on the actual card. You need to have another 485 pending, as well as a CO9, another 765, which is an EAD application. So how long does it take to get a work permit from VAWA after receiving a receipt? If you're not from one of the 39 countries, then you're looking at a timeline of anywhere from 6 to 11 months. I am seeing right now, I'll say as of this month, majority of the ones that we're getting in the office, about 6.5 months to 7.5 months. I'll actually confirm again with my file clerks to see what some of the average dates are. But like for the ones that I've actually looked at the dates, it's seeming around 6.5 to 7.5 months. There will always be people who get it slightly earlier, but most people will fall there, and then there are going to be people that get it later. If you get it later, that's fine. Usually, if you haven't gotten it after like 11 months, then, and you're not from one of the 39 countries, because this doesn't apply to the 39 country applicants. If you're not from one of the 39 countries that have the adjudicative hold, then we want to see what's going on with it. Now, if you're in one of the countries that has the pause, you should fully expect a delay. Your timeline is not going to look like the same timeline as what is published there, because yours is an intentional hold to do supplemental review on your cases because again, this is actively happening. So I can't tell you a timeline because this hold is actively happening until we start to see actual decisions with anyone from the 39 countries, even though they're saying now they're starting to do it case by case. I can't give you what we're seeing, because anything I give you would be guesswork. And I don't do guesswork. I deal with facts. I don't deal with false narratives. I want to give you the information as we are getting it. Okay? Can someone withdraw their VAWA application to apply for adjustment of status based on marriage? Can they? Sure. Should they? No. In my personal opinion. Obviously, everybody is an adult and you can make the decision that you want to. Before I used to talk about independence and the reason why, if you file a VAWA application because you're a victim of abuse, and then the person's like, okay, I'm sorry, like, let me file it for you, or okay, I met someone else, let me do it again. In the past, I would say, if you're already eligible for this, why give somebody else the power to change or control how you get your status? So that used to be the only thing that we worried about. Now, the second thing we're now worried about in the current administration is that if you are out of status, and you put in an application to USCIS, and that application is denied or withdrawn, the chances are you will get an NTA. So if that case is not approved, the chances are that you will get an NTA. What is an NTA? An NTA is a notice to appear in front of an immigration judge to come and plead your case why you should not be deported. So that is something that you would also have to consider. Okay. Roger says, good morning, world-class lawyer. Good morning, Roger. How are you? I'm Dominique. I'm doing good. Williams, good morning, my favorite lawyer. Good morning to you too, Williams. All right, let's see. Okay. If you have on YouTube, if you have a pending I-485 with an approved VAWA, EAD expiring 2027, save verification indicates DACA expiration 420. What could that mean? Please, those are two different cases. So I'm not really sure what your question is. You have a different, I don't know, I'm assuming you have DACA and you have VAWA. So it depends on what you have. Like, what exactly is the question that you're asking? If you have an approved VAWA, there's more than one EAD you have. If you're DACA, I'm assuming you have an EAD under DACA. If you get an approved VAWA, you get another EAD, which is a C31, right? You get a C31 approval. So, with your C31 approval, you want to submit a renewal, especially if they've not yet made a decision on your green card. You want to submit a renewal for that EAD so that you can have deferred action under it while you're waiting for a decision to be made on the 485. Okay. What is the average processing time for T visa? Can it be an issue that the case was filed in 2024, still in process even after doing biometrics over a year ago? 2 to 3 years. You're in a normal timeline. 2 to 3 years is the window for T visas. T visas, we're seeing, they tend to be a bit shorter. They tend to process quicker than a VAWA case. So I would say that for our T visa approvals, we typically will see them somewhere. And this is, again, anytime I'm giving you dates and timelines right now, it's not for, oh, sorry guys, I need to sneeze. This is my allergies. They're just so annoying. Okay, so they're not for people in the 39 country with adjudicative hold. But most Ts would see, I would say that most by 24 months to 36 months, you will have some sort of decision, or movement in your case if they're requesting something else or whatever it is. So you're still in a normal timeline. I'm an international student. I married my wife in November of 2023, and I filed for papers in May 2024. I got my EAD and travel documents, but not my green card. It's been 23 months. I did not receive my green card yet. I'm from New York. Mohammed, the answer to this is going to depend on whether or not you have been scheduled for an interview, and whether or not you are from a pause country. If you weren't from a pause country, if you're not from a pause country and you never got your interview since 2024, it's definitely a cause for concern and something that at this point you might want to seek congressional assistance. If you are from a pause country, even if you seek congressional assistance, they're going to let you know unless you are not natural interest. I said natural, a national interest, where they can make an exception. A national interest exception is what they're calling it. That you will have to wait until they start lifting those. Okay. If your 2-year green card expires and you get a 4-year extension letter, can you travel out of the country, or you have to wait for your 10-year green card to be in hand? If so, how long does it take? If you are a 2-year green card holder and you file for removal of conditions, which is also known as an I-751 application, you typically will get a 48-month extension on the expiration of your green card. So if your green card expires January 2026, you'll get a 4-year extension, which means that your green card does not expire until January 2030. And what that means is that you are eligible for everything as a green card holder because you maintain green card holder status. So that means you can travel out of the country just like you can work. But again, whether you have a 10-year green card or not, or a 2-year green card, if you have criminal records, and depending on the kind of criminal records, you want to talk to an attorney before you make any international trips. While it hasn't happened for any clients of mine, I do have a colleague whose green card holder went out of the country, they had a criminal record. Sadly, it wasn't even their criminal record. The person took the fall for their child. They were detained when they came back into the country. Obviously, eventually got bond and was released, but it was 30 days in detention before, just based on the type of criminal record, which was, a tough crime. But again, before you make those international trips, you want to make sure that you're good. Okay. Okay. I've answered all those work permit questions, so I'm going to skip them. Larry says, do you handle removal cases? Yes, we handle removal cases at our firm. Our lead attorney, Stacy, who is badass, handles removal. She's been doing this even longer than I've had my practice. So if you have a removal case, we're happy to assist you with that. So I'm just seeing the questions. Like, I don't know if you guys just keep repasting them, but I know I've answered all those questions, but I keep seeing them pop up again. So that's why I'm scrolling through them. So this person asked to save verification. I think you asked me the question on Facebook, and I already said I didn't understand your question. Is it better to get a fiancé visa or marriage green card for Nigerians right now, since there's a ban for immigrant visas? There is a ban for Nigeria. There's a ban for immigrant and non-immigrant visas. So just to be clear, there's a ban for both. There's a ban for immigrant visas, and there's a ban for non-immigrant visas if you're trying to consular process from Nigeria. So is it better? Not really, but if I had to pick of the two, I would pick a marriage-based case, because typically when they're lifting these types of things, those are typically the ones that will be lifted first. So if I had to pick between the two, I will. And just because of the timeline. Is Ghana in the 39 country pause? No, Ghana is not part of the 39 country pause here in the United States. However, Ghana is part of the 75 country pause outside of the United States. I mean, like, pause, ban, hold, it's so confusing, even to those of us in the legal field, that I can't even imagine for people who don't do this on a day-to-day. And, maybe they designed it to be confusing because certain countries overlap with certain things, like, let me use Nigeria, for example. Nigeria has the 39 country pause here. It has the 75 country pause. It has the, ban, the partial ban. And then it also now has the up to $15,000 visa bond if you're getting a visa to come into the United States. So it's like, when one news comes and overlaps the other one, you're like, okay, am I eligible for this one, since we're now going to be allowed to get a visa? But it's still not allowing you. It's saying once they allow that, this is what you're going to have to deal with the bond. So it's a little confusing, but yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Let's see. I submitted removal of conditions through a waiver in 2023 and received a request for evidence this year and did my metrics. My extension expires next year. Okay, you didn't ask me a question. You just kind of wrote that. So I need a question to answer it. I was approved for VAWA like 8 months ago. How long before I get an update? Congratulations. If you're approved for VAWA, the next thing that's going to happen is that you're most likely going to be scheduled for an interview. We've started seeing some of our clients that with VAWA approvals last year, they're now being scheduled for their I-485 approvals. Finally, it's about time, in the next couple of weeks. But, that's just to say that 8 months right now is not a long time in the past. I would say most people would get their decision within 6 months. But we're seeing that there's certain cases that are, they're being much slower in adjudicating those cases or making a decision on those cases. The fastest cases right now are citizenship applications and N400. Again, when I give timeline, it's not for any country that's in the 39 country ban, because those ones will be delayed. But if you're not in the 39 country and you're eligible for citizenship, the time is now. They're moving really fast with that. Oftentimes you can even do your oath ceremony the same day. Okay. Is Jamaica on the hold list? Jamaica is not on the hold list here in the United States. So if you're in the United States, you can apply and get a decision. Realistically, will this ban be lifted anytime soon? Just to make sure we're clear, a ban is different from a pause. The pause will be lifted or is being lifted already. Like they're just doing it in trickles, The ban, I can't tell you. You got to wait 180 days and we'll see what happens. 180 days from January, which is 6 months. So that puts you in June. In June, they will let us know if they're lifting any ban or any of the countries outside that are consular processing from outside. So I can't tell you because I don't have a crystal ball, sadly. All right, guys, I gotta go, but I'll be on live tomorrow I really hope I will be on. Sometimes a last minute meeting and I can be on, but I think I should be on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If I've not answered your question, schedule a consultation for your own personal consult, about your own personal case, because, I get a lot of questions. A lot of them are very vague, so whatever I'm answering may not necessarily be applicable to you if I don't know your full immigration history. So if you want to schedule a consult, call us 407-995-6567. Someone is asking which one is a ban versus a pause. Your guess is as good as mine. Okay, I'm just kidding. Maybe I could talk about that tomorrow, but again, a ban means they're not approving it, period. A pause means that they're processing it and they will approve it. They're just going through what they want to do before they approve it. Okay. All right, guys, have a great day. Bye.